Well, I wish it was under happier circumstances. I saw this story this morning when I woke up and I thought, there we are, Handmaid's Tale comes true. We're looking at women basically being told they can't control their own bodies.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's what's happening, Julia. I mean, what's clear is that, at least to conservative jurists, is that the law as written in 1973 is flawed. And so laws are supposed to be written by the Congress or by the states, depending on the law. So no one's saying that you can't have an abortion. No one's saying that abortion will disappear in the U.S. What they are saying is that the law as written was flawed. Let's send it back to the legislatures whose job is to make law. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that you have the right to kill an unborn child. It's just not in there.
But again, so that's when we use. But when we use those words, and again, I'm willing to accept that is a sort of factual statement, but it's also a very evocative and emotional statement, isn't it?
Sure. And I think that's what people have to keep in mind is it's an emotional topic. But this law is not designed. This law is actually, the court is addressing the right of the states to make abortion illegal after 15 weeks, which is the way it's done in Europe. You know, that's all they're trying to do.
Well, no, it's not. In most countries, it's not after 15 weeks. Around the 24 weeks is actually the norm in most countries. But this is it. This is such a divisive issue. Now, there are people, if you look at, say, Britain, in our parliament, there every now and then is an attempt to, to reduce the age, the number of weeks at which you can have basic abortion. We have awful phrase on demand, but actually, not have to prove that the woman's life is at risk or there is a disability of the child. But actually, in pretty much most Western countries, this is something that has been agreed and decided. And within the sort of a range of a few weeks, most people in most countries support the right of women to basically have control of their own bodies as a least worst option in many situations. Not just after someone being a victim of incest or a victim of rape, but women, who just get pregnant, even if they've not used contraception, or if they've used contraception, whether they're married, whether they're teenagers, that this is backstreet abortions, women being forced to carry babies they don't want. That is not where we are in the 21st century. In America, this is still a huge, huge, huge moral, religious, philosophical and political battleground, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's still a very, divisive topic. And I think that I hope during this process, there's just a bit of perspective here so that people don't get too freaked out on either side, and they shouldn't.
Wait a minute. There are trigger laws in 22 US states, which would mean that immediately when this decision is handed down, they would make getting an abortion illegal in we're looking at almost half of American states.
And the states and the legislatures should decide that. And if you are an advocate of certain type of abortion laws, then you should put that out to put that to the voters ultimately, and then but more specifically, or in the near term, to the legislatures. People have the right to have an opinion, and that's fine. And
people do have a right to have the opinion. The trouble is there's a difference between certain things. You might want things to change long term, or we need to have more housing built, or whatever. But when it comes to abortion, that's you've only got a few weeks to make a decision. You've only got a few weeks in which you need that law to be on your side if you want to have that freedom. And we know that, look, this is an evangelical Christian issue, and yet the vast majority of even Catholic countries now, abortion is legal up to a certain point and has actually got public support. Why is America so different on this issue?
Well, I think first of all, it's a much more of a center-right country than many of the other countries in the OECD or the West. You also have more religion. That's for sure. It's more of a religious country. And I think that there needs to be, I think, many on the right, and especially the religious right, some more perspective so that the U.S. doesn't have the most liberal abortion laws in the world, which right now it does. I mean, except maybe North Korea and Cuba. I mean, this is not where we would like, those of us on the right would like to see American abortion law more consistent with Western Europe.
And that's it. In some states, it's basically, to all intents and purposes, it's supposed to be legal up to the point of a baby being born. Now, I find that an abomination. That's morally repugnant to me.
The governor of Colorado signed an infanticide bill last month. And that really annoys, I mean, he could kiss his political career goodbye, but, I just don't understand why the the radical left wants to make the U.S. the most permissive and radical
Whereas there is a middle ground.
Yeah.
But we know the
Absolutely.
majority. It's like on gun laws. The Republicans enact certain laws, but actually the majority of people in America, whether Republican or Democrat, actually, they're very much in the middle ground on this, and they've gone through the reality themselves or a family member. What does this do when it comes to, say, midterm elections this November? We know the Republicans are set to do very well, but do you think that this actually could be a game changer? Because actually an awful lot of Republican women will say, well, they'll support it. An awful lot will say, this is crazy. It's taking away my fundamental rights.
Julie, it's a great question, because there is talk on the left that this could be an issue that will get out the vote for Democrats. Yeah. Because right now Democrats are not very excited. So there is a chance that this could be an issue. Except, and Karl Rove wrote a great piece about this in the Wall Street Journal last week, except that 48% support a 15-week law, and only 44% are against the 15-week law. So it actually isn't a winner for Democrats.
That's very interesting. Yeah. We'll have to leave it there. Time is against us. I'm sure we'll talk about this again. It's going to be, I think, a very big issue coming up for America.